over 200 years, a unique American industry has crafted products reflecting our country's great traditions of freedom, self-reliance, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Firearms are valued by millions of Americans, whether it's a handcrafted flintlock from colonial days, a big game hunting rifle, a shotgun for hunting waterfowl, precision equipment used in NCAA and Olympic competition, or a handgun used by law enforcement for recreation or for personal protection. Companies large and small across the United States employ hundreds of thousands of workers with a wide variety of skills to make these products. These firms share a common heritage as members of one of America's oldest and most storied industries. An industry which played a critical role in America's westward expansion, in pioneering modern manufacturing techniques, in equipping our soldiers to achieve victory in wars fought to defend our freedoms, in supporting the conservation of America's wildlife and wild places, and in cooperating with federal agencies to ensure that its products are lawfully sold and safely used. We invite you to learn more about America's firearms industry, where tradition, old-world craftsmanship, high-tech innovation, and responsibility come together. The history of the American firearms industry closely mirrors the history of our country. In the early years of the American colonies, firearms were necessary for providing food and protection.
From the days of the mountain men, the trappers who first explored the American West, to the waves of settlers that followed, a firearm was an essential tool of the American pioneer, as much as a knife, axe, or plow. A trusted rifle provided not only food for the table, but also protection in a hostile environment.
The Second Amendment to the Constitution was ratified in 1791, guaranteeing citizens the right to keep and bear arms.
Well, I think it's safe to say that there wouldn't be an America if it weren't for firearms, the American firearms industry. The country was born in the American Revolution, and throughout the American Civil War, which held the Union together, the westward expansion of the United States to the West Coast, and the two world wars in which we defended freedom around the world, firearms played an important part in the growth, development, and the very existence of America.
In 1798, Eli Whitney was commissioned to manufacture 10,000 muskets for the U.S. Army. These muskets were the first mass-produced products in U.S. history. Whitney's use of interchangeable parts would prove hugely influential, forming the basis of all modern manufacturing. In 1816, Eliphalet Remington II began manufacturing high-quality rifle barrels in New York's Mohawk Valley. So began Remington, America's longest continuously operating firearm manufacturer. Samuel Colt was another entrepreneurial giant. Inspired at sea by the operation of a ship's capstan, Colt invented the revolver, which allowed for multiple rounds to be fired before reloading. Samuel Colt's business boomed in 1847 when the U.S. Army took an interest in his revolvers. Colts were used throughout the Civil War. The legendary Colt 45, nicknamed the Peacemaker, became the archetypal sidearm of the American West. Oliver Winchester, John Browning, Horace Smith and Daniel Wesson, and Bill Ruger also founded enduring companies whose names are familiar even to those who have never fired a round. The beauty and artistry of early Remingtons, Winchesters, Colts, and others make them much sought-after collector's items the world over. As the industry grew, the need for industry-wide manufacturing standards became apparent. In 1926, at the request of the U.S. government, leaders of the industry formed the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute, commonly known as SAMI. SAMI was founded to ensure the safety and reliability of firearms ammunition and to establish specifications for the interchangeability of ammunition between different brands of firearms. Firearm use for hunting and other practical necessities in early America gradually evolved along with the country. As the Industrial Revolution expanded, the population grew exponentially and the country became increasingly urban. Firearm use became more recreational and less a matter of everyday necessity. Today, we live in a different world, with increased demands on our time and with shooting sports competing against other forms of recreation. Yet firearms continue to be a vital part of American life, though some individuals have developed misconceptions about firearms, the firearms industry, and their place in America today. One common misconception is that the firearms industry is unregulated.
America's firearms industry is, in fact, among the most regulated industries in the country, both through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and law enforcement agencies throughout the country. Regulations apply at the manufacturer, distributor, and retail level. A good example, it still comes as a surprise to many that every firearms purchaser must go through a background check, not just once, but each and every time they go to purchase a firearm.
The firearms industry has always valued its relationship with government and law enforcement agencies with whom it cooperates in regulatory matters. The government agency charged by Congress with monitoring and regulating the sale of firearms is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or ATF for short. Today, every firearm manufacturer must pass through the strict and thorough process of acquiring a license from the federal government. Once licensing requirements are met, each firearm must be marked with a unique serial number. A record of this number must be kept on file by the manufacturer, along with the identity of the wholesaler or retailer to whom the firearm is sold. At the wholesale distribution level, the serial number of each firearm is again recorded and kept on file in an acquisition and disposition record. The next step in the sales and regulation process is at the retail level. Before a retailer can sell a firearm, he or she must be granted by ATF a Federal Firearms License, or FFL. To receive an FFL, a retailer must have his storefront and storage area inspected, maintain regular business hours, pass an FBI background check, be fingerprinted and photographed, notify local law enforcement of his application, and provide a photo of the store to be kept on file by the ATF. In addition to these federal requirements, each retailer must also follow the laws of the state in which his or her store is located. In many states, the law is more restrictive than at the federal level and more completely defines who can sell and, just as importantly, who can purchase firearms. When a person wishes to purchase a firearm through a licensed dealer, federal law requires that individual to submit to a background check using the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, commonly called the NICS check. The NICS system is managed by the FBI. The NICS system includes criminal records, mental health records, Department of Defense records concerning dishonorable discharges, and records from the State Department concerning illegal aliens and some individuals who have renounced their citizenship.
After lunch, you need to answer all the questions.
The first step in purchasing a firearm is to fill out the necessary paperwork. Specifically, a detailed firearms transaction record, known to retailers as Form 4473, must be completed. Next, the retailer conducts a background check using the information contained on the Form 4473. The FBI checks the information against its databases of criminal records. If there is no hit, the sale will be approved. The system will then assign a NICS transaction number, or NTN, to the approval. The retailer will log the NTN on the Form 4473, and the transaction will proceed.
Mrs. Harris, I'm sorry, this has been denied. I'm not going to be able to make the sale.
If a sale is denied, the retailer is prohibited from transferring the firearm, and the attempted buyer may face criminal charges. The Form 4473 for the denied purchase is retained by the retailer as required by the ATF. A delay response indicates that the check has turned up information requiring further review by an analyst who will contact the retailer with the result of the check. While the law provides 3 business days to respond, the FBI anticipates that virtually every delay will be handled within a day. The transaction is considered complete, and the customer takes legal possession of the firearm. There are 300 million firearms in the United States today, and approximately 80 million firearm owners. Unfortunately, a small fraction of these firearms are used in crimes. Criminals obtain firearms from a variety of sources, including theft, family, friends, and the illegal underground black market. According to Department of Justice studies, a small percentage of criminals purchase firearms directly from licensed dealers.
Mind if I ask who you're buying it for?
Yeah, it's for me.
One way criminals obtain firearms is by using a straw man to act as the buyer. This is known as a straw purchase and is illegal.
The ATF Firearms transaction form has a number of questions, and the very first question is, are you the actual buyer of the firearm? When they answer yes, when they're actually buying it on behalf of someone else, you're subject to a 10-year imprisonment or a $250,000 fine or both.
The National Shooting Sports Foundation, in partnership with the ATF, sponsors Don't Lie for the Other Guy, a program designed to help retailers recognize and prevent straw purchases, and to warn the public about the penalties associated with this illegal practice.
The Don't Lie for the Other Guy program is just another example of how the industry, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and ATF work together to prevent firearms crime.
The American firearms industry is unique in that it bridges generations and produces an extraordinary variety of products, satisfying a surprisingly diverse marketplace. From the Revolutionary War reenactor with flintlock rifle to the action pistol shooter with customized race gun, the industry also continues to supply the armed forces and law enforcement with reliable firearms and ammunition. The firearms industry stepped up early on to help protect America's wildlife and wild places, and not just with talk. A federal excise tax on firearms and ammunition supports the Wildlife Restoration Trust Fund, which distributes these dollars to individual states for wildlife conservation. Since it was created in 1937, the Wildlife Restoration Trust Fund has received more than $5.6 billion from the firearms industry. The vibrancy of the industry can easily be gauged by its annual shooting, hunting, and outdoor trade show, commonly called the SHOT Show. It is the largest show of its kind in the world and is an impressive showcase for the $4 billion American firearms industry.
The SHOT Show is really the Super Bowl of the firearms industry. At the SHOT Show, once a year, we all get together and we all showcase everything that we do relating to shooting, hunting, and the outdoor trade. The show's been going on now for well over 25 years. It's grown every year, and visitors to the show are constantly amazed as to the variety of different things that one sees at the show and the degree of participation in the shooting sports. It's a really good way to show outsiders that we're not just some fringe element that's kind of back in the closet of America, but that we are a vibrant, growing, significant portion of the American recreational scene, and that the lawful and responsible use of firearms is a tradition that will continue for the foreseeable future.
With 40 million Americans safely enjoying the shooting sports, we can confidently say that firearms remain a valid and positive part of American life.